Let's do it.
So I want to talk about Alabama first, okay, a little bit and get you guys' take on this because, dude, you go anywhere on social media. I know JT doesn't really get on it that much. I don't know about you, Howard, and from an Alabama perspective, man, they are roasting Jalen Milroe. Just all kind of stuff. He ain't up to par. Bench him, set him down, bring in Ty Simpson, or just all this kind of stuff. So
let me just say this real quick.
Mm-hmm.
Bama fans are spoiled because we hear this every week for the last 3-4 years with Brady Cook. We're used to it. We hear it all the time. Heard it last week. The guy only comes back and engineers a 95-yard game-winning drive. Goes to the hospital during the game. He's gone for 2 hours. Comes back. They finally give him a standing ovation, when he comes back. And, of course, all the heroics, he wins the game. But he has been booed. Some of the words used to describe him are ass, piece of trash, garbage, dumpster fire. Yet Mizzou over the last 20 games is 17-3 with Brady Cook as its quarterback. So I'm not sure what else they want. All I can say is maybe Jalen Milroe better be glad he's in Tuscaloosa and not Columbia.
It sounds like they want him to go or since the Georgia game. So I think that's what I kind of want to hear from both of you guys. Do you really think that – what do you think? I'll start with you, JT. What do you think about his play over the past couple of weeks, and should they really be thinking about any kind of quarterback change?
Well, I said it a little bit in a forum earlier today, actually. I don't think that you make a change at any position unless the backup is actually better. Like to me, in order to become the starter, you have to beat the starter in practice. You don't get to be worse all week in practice and then just wait for somebody to have a bad game. To me, that's not how this works. You've got to prove yourself Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. And if you're better and have been demonstrably better, then you kind of wait until it feels like the guy in front of you can't get it done anymore. And the distinction I made was there's a difference between not having having a poor performance or a seemingly poor performance versus holding one side of the ball back, right? So the discussion we got into was Jalen Hurts and Tua and that kind of thing. And I my take on it was a very poorly kept secret that Tua threw the ball, just his ability to throw the ball was better than Jalen's at that time. The question then was, could he run the offense? Does he actually give you a better opportunity? But meanwhile, Jalen's still winning all these games. And it didn't come to a head until the national championship where things weren't going right. And what you needed was a passing game. So now you have a guy who you knew was better at doing that thing than the guy that you had on the field. And to me, that's kind of when you make the change, is when you know that the guy that's standing on the sideline is demonstrably better at the thing that needs to be done at that moment. Then you put him in there. And I'll take it a step further to say, if you've got two guys that are similar, I'm still not making the change. If you're similar, then you need to beat him in practice.
Mm-hmm. I like what he's saying there. In practice. What do you say, Mr. Richards, about this and quarterback changes and, what goes into the process of actually making an in-game change?
You both know who the most popular player is on the team, right? The backup quarterback.
Always.
No, I do agree with JT. There's so many things that go into making the decision as to, who's going to remain as your field general and why. And I do believe that whoever the backup is has to really be a guy that can give you the best chance to win when you decide to make a change. And that's the reason, even if Brady Cook or Jalen Hurts or Jalen Milroe haven't played at their best. You're going to bring in a guy cold off the bench and really think that he's going to do better than the guy that's been on the field, week in, week out, year in, year out. It's a pipe dream. It usually does not happen that way. There are some coaches that have made that move and been successful on occasion, but for the most part, that's why they ultimately go back to the original starter, because that backup isn't a guy, he doesn't get, as you all know, he doesn't get the reps at practice. He's usually working with the scout team or running with the twos. So he's not necessarily seeing the same action. He's not seeing the same looks as the starters are. Here's the other thing. Sometimes, and I say this is especially true this year, the parity in the league, the parity in college football, it is alive and well this year.
Yes, it is.
Teams, that gap between the top and the bottom is doing this. How else does, and this, I'm not knocking Vanderbilt, but Vanderbilt's program has been, amongst the worst. Let me rephrase that. Vanderbilt's program has not been the robust program that we have seen from Alabama and Georgia, the perennial powers in the SEC, for a number of reasons. Now, with the transfer portal, with NIL, it has enabled Clark Lee to build the type of program that he, really envisioned building when he came to Vandy as the head coach from Notre Dame, even before there was NIL or the transfer portal. When you can bring in and pay a player that is valuable to your team and is a valuable puzzle piece, you have to do that. And whether it's Vanderbilt or Tennessee or Missouri or Alabama, you owe it to yourself to bring in the best player. And especially if you can find a quarterback, a guy that is a proven winner, a guy that works well within your system, and a guy that can flat out get it done, then you need to do that. Listen, Diego Pavia from Vandy, most of the world is just seeing him this year. Mizzou saw him at New Mexico State a few years ago. And, he virtually did the same thing to us then that he did this year and what he did to Alabama. He just didn't have as many players surrounding him at New Mexico State. He's a winner. He's a different type of player, but the guy's the heart of a champion. But at Vandy, he's surrounded by many more, I think, SEC caliber players than what he had at New Mexico State. I don't know how Vandy's going to finish the rest of the year. They're sitting at 4-2 now, I believe. It will be a great story if they, continue to win a few more games this year, 3, 4, 5 more games, or if they run the table. It's going to be a great story. But right now, they're riding on a high. They're playing pretty well. There's still a lot of football remaining. So it'll be an interesting team to watch, as they go forward. But listen, having a quarterback on your roster is the most important position. And I think the people that are saying Milroe should sit, from what I've seen of Milroe, there's no way. I think he's among the top, if not the top quarterback in the SEC as of right now, overall. So why would you sit him? And I don't know what Bama's record is over the last 2 seasons with him a starter, but I would imagine it's comparable to 17-3 where Brady Cook sits.
The last thing I wanted to say is kind of like is kind of the same thing that Howard was saying. For every Tua and Arch Manning and Cardell Jones, there's a whoever it was that Tennessee had to go out there for one play that immediately threw an interception.
Right there.
There's a Robbie Ashford. There's a long list of other quarterbacks that came in for a couple of drives and absolutely ruined the game. And then you put the starter back in there to try to go be the hero and save you. So
yeah,
we remember the good ones, but we immediately forget all the times that it went wrong. Yeah. And the locker room.
No doubt.